It's like the Brady Bunch. Hey, good evening, everyone. Dave Wilson, the Ringer Hire Show. Hey, tonight, I got them all. You see a monster to my right, Melissa Bowman. How are you?
I'm great. So
And below
happy
me,
to be here again.
Oh, it's awesome. We got Mr. Rod Williams of Munster below me. And then we got the main man over here, Stephen Farrell of Utah Jobs. And tonight we're going to talk about job boards with Munster. And Steve and myself, we're going to grill the couple to our right. We are going to ask questions nonstop. We're going to just see what they say. And please, anybody watching this show, pop up the question. So this video goes out to you, Melissa. Got to make sure it's the right one or Steve's going to get me.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
How did you like the little monkey?
I love it. Oh, that's awesome.
Yep, Steve had to make it, man. It was over the weekend. I think it was over the weekend. Right. You had it all made up for the show.
He's very creative.
That was. I love it. But I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
I did.
All right. Hey, we're going to introduce everybody here tonight. And please, everybody that has some questions about Munster job boards, these are the people here. Rod Williams, would you like to introduce yourself and what you do?
Yes. My name is Rod Williams. I am a senior account manager at Monster. Basically, that means I do everything I can to provide the best customer service to my clients. I've been there 7 years, and it just seems like yesterday.
I can imagine. And Melissa.
I am Melissa Bowman. I am one of Rod's colleagues. He's a great mentor. I turn to him for all of my questions and needs, and I'm learning quite a bit from him, but I am also a sales executive, and I take care of my customers like no one else can. That's just in my genetic makeup, and I make sure that they have everything they need from me, from Monster, from Rod, whomever.
That's it. He's to my right. I had to do that there. So, and Steve, the Utah man, Steve's a great colleague. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, I'm great. Welcome, Melissa. Welcome, Rod. Dave, thanks for the invite. I run another podcast, Northern Utah Jobs, where we talk about a lot of the same stuff as Dave. So we'll try not to repeat ourselves tonight, but I've got a slew of questions to ask Melissa and Rod about the current job market, about resume tips and interviewing, so much more. And so, yeah, thank you for having me on the program. It's going to be fun tonight.
Well,
can't wait to see what you got to throw at us today.
Hey, this is my first show I've ever had 4. Never had 4 people on before. So, but we already have Joel. Joel's going to be watching in. Hey, Joel, thanks for watching.
Hey, Joel.
I am going to start off with the first question. I'm going to go with Melissa in square one. Block 1, right? Melissa, can you explain to us, I know Munster, the Search Monster. What is it?
Search Monster is our database of candidates. Candidates can come and input their resumes, update their resumes. It is the best tool that I have seen within a job board. Before I came to Monster, I may have been a candidate here and there and looking at all of the other vendors out there. Search Monster is a fabulous tool. You can, as an employer, search candidates by job title, by keywords, by location, by radius, by any security clearances that they have. You can have the system provide you notifications of any new candidates that come in and meet the needs that you are currently looking for. You can send out email campaigns to a number of candidates. You can favorite candidates. You can text message candidates that opt in for that option. Many other vendors don't do that. And if they do it, then they may charge for messages. And it's all inclusive with Search Monster. You have unlimited users and you can keep track of reporting. You can see how many clicks, how many opens, how many replies, etc. So it's a fabulous tool.
So is that when you say that part, is that different than the job board itself? Is that
the job board itself is different? Yes. Search Monster is where you as an employer will come in and you can search candidates that have specific job qualifications that may meet the need of a position you're looking to fulfill.
All right. So that's
your
just
job
postings you're getting with it.
Correct.
You're getting extra with it. All
correct.
Right.
Your job postings are your postings of whatever positions you are looking to fulfill. So having them together, it's a perfect marriage. You can have those jobs out there. Candidates can come in, find those jobs and apply. And you can search for candidates because it's a candidate driven market. Right now, I think I mentioned this before, it's like a lazy river. Whoever snatches the candidate first is who grabs them. It's a candidate driven market and they are being very, very selective on where they're applying to. So if you can get in front of them and we notify you that, hey, Joe Schmo over here has these qualifications, we email you the next morning, you can call him, you can text him, you can send him an email, whatever.
So you're doing the work. Okay.
Correct.
That's awesome.
You know,
all right, Stephen. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Rod.
I have one piggyback on that too, is if you have companies you work with that actually are post-COVID and they're doing career fairs, you have the ability to create the email campaign, put in your skill sets and drill down. You can put together not only your message, but also a fully automated 5 or a 10-day follow-up leading up to a career fair. You know, all of the people for warehouse workers, you know, you want to send a message out within 20 miles of a certain zip code radius, things like that. It's really cool. And the metrics are real time. So we can tell you how many people read the message, how many people clicked on links inside the message. So that's all inclusive in there. So yeah, it is a great tool. It's very complementary to the job postings.
All right. I just want to go back on that. So it's separate. It's just something, there's your job posting, but this is something that's offered that gives you a great tool to go after the candidate.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Got it. Whew. Took me a while on that one. All right, Steve.
I really like the idea, the concept of being able to text message and email off the platform. You know, email's pretty normal, I think, across most platforms, but texting, that's pretty new. So I'll definitely have to talk to you offline, Melissa, and you'll have to show me that, you know, virtually. So I'm curious, speaking of job seekers, do you see, you know, when it comes to job postings, you guys probably monitor how many new posts are coming onto the platform and the ones that are being taken down. You know, last year was the great resignation. We all experienced that. We all felt it. And it seemed like there was just thousands and thousands of jobs in each market, more than we've ever seen before. And I'm curious, so, you know, seems like there's been a run on since last year of just this demand, this high demand for labor. Are you guys seeing the job market lighten up at all when it comes to job postings, or is it still hopping? Are you still seeing record number of job postings?
You know, Melissa, you go ahead and answer, and I'll piggyback and add anything, but I don't expect I'll have to because you're very thorough.
Oh, well, I can tell you just from the hundreds of clients that are in my book, there are still so many jobs out there. I've got clients that have anywhere from 15 to 4,000 jobs on their website. They are constantly searching for candidates and reaching out to them. I am doing, you know, mid-contract renewals for these clients because they are utilizing all of their postings. So it is definitely still a market out there that many clients are in need of labor. And you can see that in all over Google, on Indeed, on Career Builder, wherever. It's not just Monster, it's everywhere.
Yeah. I think I've been seeing the same trend. It has not slowed down.
No.
And I think it's frustrating for employers at times because there's so many jobs out there. You know, how do I as an employer stand out, right? How do I get my job to be on the front page instead of the 10th or 20th page that'll never be viewed by most people, right? And so I'm curious, how does someone stand out that's only got one job posting versus what you said, 4,000 job postings in one company? Like, how do you compete with that as an employer in this market? What are some good tips to show up on that front page with one job versus 4,000 jobs?
The first thing that comes to mind, and I'm sure Rod will jump in because I learned a lot of this from him, is your title. Make sure it's industry terms, not something fancy like, you know, if it's a janitor, calling it I don't know, some type of cleanup executive or whatever. You know, it is industry terms. And I've said this before with you, Dave, paint that picture, outline the culture, outline the value that these candidates will feel, make them feel that in the job description. You know, you can have 18 different companies out here with the same type of executive position or secretary position. But if I see something that catches my eye, I'm going to look at that one before I look at something that sounds familiar from 17 other companies. So I want to make sure that I, as a candidate, feel like I will be part of that family. And your job description needs to highlight everything. You list the name of that title a couple of times within the first paragraph, introduction paragraph of the job description, and then outline benefits. So those are top of mind keys that I think will help make someone stand out.
In real time, when you talked about the real time, so you can actually, as the employer, go in at any time and see what it's like, right? You'd be able to see.
Yep.
That, Steve, I think that would be, I've never seen that before, because the insights that you could see right away of who's writing or looking at your job. Because I know you had something on here about enhanced job branding, because there was a thing on their website about a restaurant worker, how the employees would get lunches. There was play foosball in the cafeteria. There was different ways of putting things on there to draw the candidates over to Munster. So the branding, it was a company branding that you were able
about
to
branding. Yep.
I'm curious, when it comes to the successful job ads, what's working? If you could highlight the top one or two, maybe three reasons. Is it the pay rate that's being advertised versus one that's not being advertised? So job seekers are looking for that pay rate when they're searching for the title, right? They're just scrolling, seeing which one has the highest pay rate. Are they looking at the company name, the branding, the perks? I mean, what's catching their eye to stick to the ad and then to apply eventually?
You know, I have a couple of things. You know, this is kind of a strange analogy, but it's very appetizing to me. I call it the cupcake philosophy. I mean, if you want to have the frosting up at the top of the ad, you know, because over 65% of people are looking at this on a mobile device, you know, or a handheld device. So if consider your job a job advertisement, not a job description. You're basically marketing the company. So if you have the culture, you know, we're looking to fill a key position. You know, our company specializes in this. We value our employees. You know, here's some of the bullets of what we're looking for. For more information, you know, go here. But one thing specifically that I connected with our VP of search of Google search. We have two VPs, one of Google, one of Monster. And she said, as Melissa mentioned, that it's good to list your job title 3 times, you know, in your job somewhere. So your title would be accountant at the very top of your job description. Before you start writing something, I would usually put accountant again. And then under responsibilities, your responsibilities as an accountant would be. And the reason why she said was because many times there are different phrases inside the body of the ad that sound like a job description. So if you leave nothing to the imagination, that certainly will help increase the relevancy. Two other things were using an actual address instead of a zip code, and then having the pay. But Stephen, I don't know if you have many employers that like to have their pay listed on jobs. It's not a majority at this point, but if you have,
I get split reviews. Some companies, to be competitive, they're listing that pay, and they're keeping their internal employees at that rate or higher, right?
Yeah.
So they're making sure there's no wage compression in their building, and then other companies that have that wage compression that are fearful of losing people advertising the rates of the new hires, they don't list them, and then good, bad, or indifferent, you see not as many job applicants without the pay rate being advertised.
Right.
So do you on one hand, do you lose your good internal employees with that wage compression because you're advertising the rates, or on the other hand, do you keep your good internal people and not advertise your rates and have a smaller applicant flow? And that's a hard balance there.
And I like to see if it's a consulting job that's paying 60 to 80 to 115 an hour or something like that, I think it's important to list. Otherwise you could be shooting yourself in the foot, and not that we don't want to waste our time on candidates, but two things come to mind. One, we may be looking at 60 to 70,000, but if we found somebody qualified for 75, right, or 80, would we turn them down? So I think it's okay not to at this point, because if salary is competitive, commensurate with experience, if your pay is far above what the market is out there, that's great. But I think a lot of people are willing to take jobs that have culture, that have that recognize diversity, that have community commitments, and take a little bit less money at times to work with an organization, that values them, that they can bring their real self to work every day, if you will.
We never talked about this stuff years ago. Years ago, we never talked about all this. It wasn't culture and all that wasn't really the discussion. It was always about the jobs. And now we're talking about perks.
Right.
Well, in some states, legally, you have to advertise the pay rate in the job ad, which I find interesting. I like companies that advertise the pay rates, being transparent about them. That tells you something about the culture, right? If they're advertising the pay rates versus not, it's not black and white, but oftentimes that tells you more about the company culture, and it helps you, to your point, Rod, get the qualified candidate up front versus screening out all these candidates that thought you were going to pay. They didn't know the pay rate; they just assumed, and then you tell them something much lower, and they're like, "Oh, sure. Well, thanks for wasting my time."
No, it makes sense. But and I have found, you may have found this too, that recruiters are busier than ever. Staffing firms, recruiting firms are busier than ever. That doesn't mean their job is easier, because you're still dealing with the same challenges that the employers are, except multiplied, except you get paid a little bit more to fill them. So
Melissa, I had one for you here. I know this one you take to heart, and military.com. It's something that you like, and it's something with Munster. If you could talk about there, I know you like this part.
Yes. As I've mentioned before, I am the spouse of a veteran, so I am very passionate about our military and our vets that are transitioning into civilian life. Military.com is the largest military website out there. Monster does own it and runs it. Everybody that works on that side of the business is a vet, and they do it because of the passion they have to help their colleagues, their brothers, and I can absolutely respect that. We have tools that vets can input their resume. They can find featured employers that are vet friendly. There are banner ads that we run for clients. We have master classes that the candidates can attend and get certified in whatever, or get a certificate for whatever class that is, which helps them with their transition into civilian life.
That is
We help
amazing.
spouses. We
It is.
provide, articles. We have a tool that you can input your MOS, and it will show
Love
you what jobs that your skills from the military can align with in civilian life.
I told you I was tanks. I blew things up. So good luck with that one. But Melissa, Steve has another surprise for you here.
Okay.
So on your first thing, I'm only allowed to do it when you get a good comment.
So you're supposed to highlight the comment and then hit the video.
I'm like, what? How do you? Oh,
So
you gotta be kidding! No, it worked good enough.
Click
Everybody was
the
laughing.
comment on the screen. Drag Joel's comment.
To piggyback on what she said on the master classes, I was looking deeper into this, and we have a counselor. She runs all of the classes. She's a transition master coach. She's a certified professional center career coach.
Wow.
She's a military sociologist.
Wow.
And she's a military brat. I listen when I listen to a recorded podcast. Sometimes I don't listen to everything. I just want to kind of see what the gist is. I listened to the entire thing, and it was incredible. And they've started having these master classes almost a year ago. They've had 7,000,
nice.
military veterans go through them live, and it's great. And the ones I was listening to, it was for the enlisted people, and she started off saying, okay, you're going to have 3 enemies, when you start to go on. First is going to be your mother. And the second one's going to be your commanding officer. And the third one's going to be your friends. Your mother's going to want you to be close to them. Your commanding officers are going to want you to re-enlist. Your friends are going to want you to do what they do, one or the other. And it was just incredible the way she handled this, too. So it's a pool that's necessary for companies to spend more time on. Mm-hmm. All the qualities that veterans have and the things that Melissa shared, there's a wealth of resources and a plethora of ways that we have to reach them with either emails or we can target the ones that are being discharged, all kinds of cool stuff. So
that's amazing. A close friend of mine that I grew up with, he was in the Air Force and retired, I think after about 17 years in. And this guy's got, a master's degree and well-educated, high ranking in the military. And he calls me and he's like, I don't know what to do, where to go. Should I go work at a bank or work in a restaurant? And I'm like, you have a freaking master's degree in accounting. Don't go work at a bank.
Well, they'll find it there.
But they just don't know. And so having these resources to give them some direction, I think is pretty neat.
Melissa, I'll let you read this one.
So big offer on the table, more than double his salary. But
so I make less than 40K now and in line for a small promotion, but enjoy who I work with, yet having an offer for 95 to 120K, but not sure how I like it there. It's a big decision and it's scary to go somewhere where I might not make it, if that makes sense.
It does. And I'm sorry. Did you want me to read that out loud?
Yeah, but that's okay. I figured you were going to get to it sooner or later. I didn't talk about that in the show. I was like, Steve, if she
was just looking really close.
I was reading it. I was like, okay.
That's all right.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That does make sense. And I've been there. I know what you're going through. You really have to kind of weigh what's most important, your comfort, if you're able to take care of the family or yourself or your bills or responsibilities with what you're making, or is your life going to be even grander with a higher dollar rate? My mother used to always say, stop chasing the dollar, stop chasing the dollar. Well, I got bills to pay, and I've made many mistakes in my past chasing the dollar, but when I found what I love to do, and that's take care of my clients. I actually just had a client from a previous employer reach out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, I have a question. Can you kind of help me? And it was just a question about how would you word this. I'm trying to break into this type of industry. So that melted my heart. I'm like, okay, I'm doing a great job. This is what I'm meant to do. Because people from a year ago or 2 years ago are still reaching out to me saying, hey, I got something I want to talk to you about. So it's all a matter of what your comfort level is.
Yeah.
Do some research, check to see what people are saying about the company, about what that culture is. What are the greats? What are the cons? What's positive? What's negative? And then kind of decide as a whole with your family or, with yourself, what it is that is going to best suit you in your life in the next chapter you're considering and taking.
Melissa, I think that's really good advice, and it makes me wonder, reading Joel's comment, if maybe he feels underqualified, and so based on that salary range, it tells me he's moving into a role that's maybe a bit of a reach for him, and maybe he's scared that he's going to fail. He says he might not make it, if that makes sense. And so I'd say, Joel, you know what? We all feel underqualified when it comes to getting promoted and taking new jobs. But if you've been offered the job, that person, that company believed in you enough, thought you were qualified enough to take that role on. And so, be a lifelong learner and spend as much as your downtime as you have to get to where you feel comfortable in that role. But I could tell you have enough framework to make it happen and to be successful. And the fact that you're a little scared about it, that's a good thing.
That is a great thing.
It is. And thanks, Joe. I really appreciate that. And like he says, negative, fully certified, but it's salary commissions. That's good.
Oh, okay.
So good. Rod, I have one question for you. If you had to say, what would be the number one advice where somebody's going to post their resume or how to do it on Monster? Like what one piece of good advice for the resume?
I think there's too many things that go into a resume. My belief is that you may post a general resume on a Monster or any other job board and recognize that resume is created for one job. So you want to make sure that it's geared specifically for the type of position that you're looking for. And I think that a lot of job boards don't necessarily have the ability to have cover letters. So if you have somewhere on the top the title that you're looking for, I'm looking for an assistant controller position in the manufacturing industry with cost accounting background. So those keywords will pull up when recruiters are actually doing searching. When you're submitting resumes specifically to companies that you're submitting to, I don't necessarily recommend that. You can always tie in with a cover letter on things like that. But it's important. I like to know what is the nature and magnitude of the company you work for. What is the nature and magnitude of your capacity within the company? What were the measures of success that you had? Or how did you measure success, and what were your measures? So you have to make sure that it's relevant, that they can see what impact you had on the bottom line. If it was something that could be monetized, that's great. If it's something that you increase productivity, things along that line. I'm sure both of you have seen things like this. But Stephen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it would be nice if there was something out there that you could have 3 different resumes that was searchable for 3 different job titles. But if you're a job seeker applying for jobs, I think a generic resume is not a good idea. It needs to be position specific, and it needs to be written to mirror that position. So as a recruiter, when I'm looking at a resume, my 3-second glance, if I just see like a few bullet points that call to me, then I'm spending more time looking it over. But if I see some generic resume, I'm just skipping. I'm going to the next one that calls me. And unfortunately, it's just how it is in the world today. And so if you have a resume that's written specifically for that job or that industry, you're going to have much better success. Absolutely.
That makes sense.
I agree.
Melissa, do you get people asking you a lot about cover letters? Do you submit them or not?
That's a great question.
That is a great question. And
Because
no,
I don't put them. I've never have. I don't know why. I'm just being honest. I don't do it. Everybody says you don't have to do it. They don't read it, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't.
yeah, I mean, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, yeah, I was groomed to make sure grammar is correct, and you paint that picture and you sell yourself, because that's what you're doing. I mean, you are selling yourself to anyone that you are reaching out to, and you want to stand out from the crowd. But now it's like, okay, there are so many candidates out there, and recruiters just don't have the time. So I don't have anybody asking me about that. I submitted a cover letter for this position, and I submitted it for a previous position here in the last 5 years or so. Would I do it today? Don't really know, because do they have time? Is there something maybe I think I can say in my cover letter that's going to want them to look at my extremely long resume? Maybe, and if it's a good fit, then I think I would. If it's just something I want to try and, see if I can get in because I'm not actively looking, but I'm just curious, then maybe. Sure. But I just don't think people have time to read them.
Well, I want to hear the two below you, because I can't.
I like
to
them.
Your answers.
I like them. I think if they're relevant. One thing I don't like is objectives. I don't think objectives belong on resumes. It's like, I want to be the best that I can be, and nothing that is put on an objective really is relevant to the job. But the cover letters, it can tie in. It's personalizing you. It's giving you a chance to tell a little bit about your story, and also tie in the skills. As I mentioned to you about the person I was counseling, try to include some of those bullets that are in the job description in your resume. Make sure, ideally, you would have a new resume for every job you apply for, but that's not possible. But if you have your base resume that you can interchange some bullets and then tie in the cover letter to those things that they've recognized as important, that's what I view as important in a cover letter too. So how about you, Stephen?
Yeah, I would agree 100% with Rod. And I would add that
that's 75% with Melissa, or
Melissa.
I guess I'm wrong this time.
No.
So here's the thing. Here's my experience is, if you have a recruiter that has experienced using cover letters in their past, 20 years ago when they sent it in the mail, right? Or even dial up AOL and they sent it that way. Oh, if that's how they grew up, they're going to expect that and appreciate it. So you'll stand out with a cover letter, because nobody does it anymore. Yeah. And then all the other recruiters that didn't grow up using a cover letter, they could care less. They won't even look at it. They're going to go straight to the resume. I know me as a recruiter, I skip the cover letter. I just go straight to the resume. And then if I'm really impressed with the resume, I'll go back to the cover letter. And so I think you don't lose using a cover letter as long as it's written properly, like Rod outlined with the bullet points. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any losing with a cover letter. There's only potential to win if you catch the right recruiter that appreciates cover letters.
Right.
Well, I go back and forth. My emotions are going up and down on this. I'm like, oh, maybe I should.
They're hot flashes. They're hot flashes.
It is. We still have another 10, 15 minutes here. One of my questions would be to Melissa and Rod is the length of a job description. How you talked about, Rod, in the beginning, when you click on a job description, do you really need it 6, 7, 8 paragraphs? Does it help anything? I should say, or is there anything that's good about it that could benefit?
It's interesting, because I think the longer it is, the less attention it's going to get. And again, in speaking to our VP of search, they were recommending somewhere between 500 to 650 words, to that sweet spot in there, because it gives you enough room to describe the job, define the culture, have the benefits, and things along that line. But you can do it in less. At times, it's use as few words as possible that you need to get your message across is what I would do. But if you start getting into must be able to communicate, must be able to do this, must be able to do that, I don't think anybody's going to go down that checklist and say, oh no, I can't, I don't know how to communicate, I'm going to have to go to another job, too. So there's certain things that are redundant. that you can either direct them to the regular job description, but I think less is better to a certain extent. But if you get too much brevity, then people want to know some information. They want to be able to feel your job.
Feel that.
They want the frosting, the cupcake philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Dave, I think the future of job ads, maybe I'll start this company, but you have Pinterest where you have the tiles and you just scroll through the tiles, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the next job board is just tiles. Like you have a picture of the company, you have the job title, the pay rate, and maybe like one other sentence, and you just click one button to apply. And then the recruiter likes your resume, then they'll expand the job description with you. I don't know. I think that's
let's go ahead and start building that right now.
Yeah.
Before somebody
I'm free
steals the
after
idea.
meeting if you want to stay on and chat.
Wow. They did one in New Jersey when I was doing that. They had an emergency button. I'm not going to say who it was, but it was crazy. So if it was an emergency when you needed jobs, you push that, and it boosted your resume out to so many different companies, and that was horrible. It was horrible. I don't know whoever would have invented that. I hope you didn't, but you just pushed it, and it made people apply for jobs that they weren't even qualified for.
Right.
I think it just picked up a couple of letters. Makes sense. Steve, I know you got to have another question here. Good one.
Okay.
We got to drill on Melissa. On one. Make her.
Okay, Melissa, this one is for you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have two questions. The first one is a bit of a touchy subject, but most job boards, companies will search their employee base for their resumes to see if they're active. Did they update it last week, a month ago? Is LinkedIn Premium highlighted on their profile all of a sudden when it wasn't the last year, right? And so, how do you feel about that? Maybe you don't have to answer that, but B, what's the way around that as a job seeker that you don't want your employer to see your resume out there? I'm guilty of doing those searches myself in the past, and I feel kind of bad doing it, but it's also I have a little self-reflection going, well, what am I doing if my employees are out there looking for a job? Instead of approaching them, I'm just going to see how I can make them happy here and boost morale and keep them engaged. And so now it's just a sign, a road sign that says, hey, you're not doing your job, Stephen. You need to go do something different with your team to make them happy. But yeah, I'm curious, as a job seeker, how do they avoid that? Their employers, searching their name on the job.
She's winding up. She's ready. Let's go.
I saw her sitting up straight.
She's like, I'm ready now. Like, there goes the hair. Here we go.
No, I agree with you. Several companies may do that for different reasons. Either they think someone's about to leave, or like you, maybe they aren't happy and and that was me as a supervisor in a few jobs ago. I had 4 offices and 35 some odd employees as a whole usually. And I would look, and I kind of readjust my attitude or readjust my mannerisms to make them happy. I just talked to them more, or whatever the case was. Good portion of them didn't leave, but that was a check for myself as a supervisor. Yeah. So maybe employers are doing that just to see. As a candidate, I would say with Monster, you can make yourself private.
Oh,
so
okay.
You do have the capability of making yourself private, and any employer that comes in and types out, let's say, accountant, they may set up an email campaign with an initial email, a 5-day follow-up, and a 10-day follow-up. And unless me as the accountant clicks on something, you won't be able to see who I am. But once I do, then you will be able, and Rod, correct me if I'm wrong, you will be able to see that candidate's information.
She's
but
never
you won't
wrong.
know who I am in the beginning. So my employer can't go in and type Melissa Bowman. They won't find me because I'm private. But if I just throw it out there, then yeah, anyone can find me.
I'm private everywhere. Like I told you, everything's for sale. Everything's for sale. Just put everything looking extremely urgently. Hey, it's for sale. Do it. No.
And Stephen had mentioned too, and I think that also goes to the employer. The employer should be looking inward. Like Melissa said, what can I be doing more to make my employees happy ahead of time? Because I don't think enough is being done in retention. You're focusing on recruiting. Let's go ahead and get these people in here. Let's get them in here. Let's get them in here. And they're going out the other door. Monster has done some incredible things with regards to, we used to have just PTO days, and they went ahead and added five sick days on top of our PTO days, and then they added a purple day, and then this year they said, because of the Ukraine stuff and other things that are going on, we need to be taking care of ourselves and our communities, so we're going to give you 2 extra volunteer days to do whatever you want, too. So those things that are important to employees to make them feel like they belong, and even Melissa and I, our team. Not every team does this, but every day at 11:30, we have what we call a cuddle. It's a huddle, but we call it a cuddle.
Cuddle.
The whole team gets on.
Do we need to call HR here, Rod?
We talk. I know it's a PG podcast, but we have a huddle and chat about work. Sometimes you just shoot the breeze for a couple of minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and it's gone as much as 30, but. Every Wednesday we have a happy hour. So at 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock or longer if they want, we stop, just kind of mess around. They can get a beer if they want, a Diet Coke, whatever. But it's incredible for team building, too. And I think companies get their awards and things like that. But if you're worried about losing somebody, the person who said if they were making 40,000, they got offered a 90,000, you can bet that employer is going to have to pay 60,000 or more to replace that person, too. But it's not all about the money. It's about, how you make your employees feel welcome.
That's true. All right. Well, I got one more question, and then Steve, you got one more, and then we'll wrap it up here. First, I want to thank both of you. This is great. This is our second time, and Melissa and I talked about we'd like to do this like every 2 weeks. I just think it gets really some great information out, because I am not kidding anybody. And everybody knows me, but this is all just from Monster. You can do a show, a podcast. I'm not kidding, on all the information that Monster provides. And I'm not just saying that because this is insane. I could do a show. Steve, we got one coming up on interview questions. Let me tell you, they give you a great 100, the best. You don't have to Google everywhere, not that I'm interviewing, but what I'm saying is it's, I really like all that information. So thank you for both of doing that. But if you had to say what makes Monster different now, in a couple sentences, what would you say?
Go ahead, Melissa.
To me, what makes Monster different is the simple fact that we care. We care about you and your organization. We care about your success. We care about meeting your needs. We provide one-on-one white glove service. I don't care if you're spending $1,500 with me or $15,000 with me as your account manager. I'm going to treat you like you are the only one that matters. Your needs are my main focus.
Nice.
And that, I think, is what makes us different. I don't know how others do it. I hear what clients are telling me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm insulted for you. I would never do that, and that's and I'm still trying to prove myself to my new clients, but they're learning as they go. Oh, well, thanks for that quick response. Oh, it's 6:30. You answered the phone. Or, hey, do you have time to chat? Yep, I got that. I even throw videos together. Someone has a question, I'll put a video together and I'll send it over, and it blows their mind. You won't get that anywhere else.
Customer service.
I concur with that, and we have the ability to be a one-stop shop for lots of different things. We have, I'm not sure if you're aware, Stephen, we were acquired by, and Dave, we were acquired by Randstad about 3 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago. So having the backing of a global, another global company to be able to provide RPO services, to be able to give our clients something else to help them out with. I think we're going to be doing more partnerships with Randstad. They may be selling job postings, Monster postings in the future and things like that. So there's lots of tie-ins. But again, it comes back to the service. I would put our service up against any company, that's out there, and I'll give people advice on free tools, outside of Monster, if it will help them. So
Nice.
All
right, Steve.
Melissa's an incredible addition to the team. I love having her.
Oh, she's awesome.
She is.
She seems nice.
This ain't her first rodeo. She seems nice.
All right. So you guys, Melissa and Rod, you guys talked a lot about, Monster services and what sets you apart. And, I noticed on Monster, you have this career page, this career advice, these resources and tools. And, a lot of times job seekers, they don't know what they don't know. And so they're looking for advice. And there's a million resources out there when it comes to job searches and resume writing and interview tips and things like that. And it seems like you guys bring that together, and make it pretty simple on your career hub. And so I'm curious along those lines, job seekers, when they're in an interview, because this is where we get to the nuts and bolts, there's a lot of information out there. So I want to get your take on this, Rod and Melissa. How long should your answers be? Whether especially when you get an employer that's asking for a specific scenario, right? Give me the details of when you had to discipline an employee and what was the outcome, or give me a scenario when you won a client and what led up to that, and what were your successes, what were your setbacks, and how did you achieve this win. And so these interviews, most of them are virtual now, and there's still some in person, but you have this short window, maybe 45 minutes or an hour, and you have multiple people there interviewing you. And so what's the right answer? What's the time that you spend on each answer? I'd be curious. What would you say?
Go ahead, Melissa.
Give it to Melissa.
Yeah, there we go. I'll piggyback. I'll shake my head. See, that was great.
Yeah.
That was great, yeah.
You may be completely opposite what I'm thinking. To me, with the world that we live in right now, it's one, we've talked about feeling valued. We've talked about culture. It's all about personality. You want to be able to express yourself according to who you are. Live your truth, show your truth, and be who you are in an interview. Don't give a 30-minute answer, of course not, but you want to hit the highlights of a question like that, explain the situation, show how detailed you are, and then talk about what the outcome was. If you make it too short, to me, and I've been an interviewer and a person who hired people for years, I would question, okay, is that all they have? That's just me. Other people may just want short, to the point, and be done and over with. Okay, great. You have to kind of gauge the people or the person that you are interviewing with. And if they're open and they are developing that rapport with you, show your colors. If they are like this, get right to the point and move on.
Is it important? Would it be notable to ask, Melissa, do you want the 2-minute answer or the 5-minute answer?
I would probably go the route of did I answer your question? Just to make sure you covered it. Because there are different situations and scenarios, but
right.
You've seen many of these, Stephen, I'm sure, too. So what is your thought?
My thought is if it's one person you're interviewing with, like Melissa stated, you can read the room and gauge that individual if they want short or long detailed answers. If you have multiple people, they're going to have their own idea of what they want out of this interview. They're going to be pulling things out. And so personally, I think 2 minutes tops on an interview, on giving your answer. And then, Rod, did I answer your question? Did you want any more details? I was just trying to keep it short.
Yeah.
Sure.
Something like that.
All right. Well, good. I think that's great. I think, did they pass, Steve? Did Did you give it a thumbs up?
The
Correct?
verdict isn't out yet. I think we need another one of these.
Yeah,
Well,
I
another
still
one?
have like 10 more questions to
Wow.
ask, and there were softball ones on this episode.
That's all right. But no, I want to thank everybody again, Melissa and Rod and Steve, for coming on. We'll try to get this every 2 weeks, like to talk about for the job hunters, and I just think this is excellent information. We all know it, we see it, but Melissa, I've known you for a while, so hopefully we'll be doing videos for another 10 to 15 years yet, maybe.
Absolutely.
And we'll be going, Steve. But I really believe in getting everybody together like this is like you could trust the person. And I always say, like, if you've watched Melissa for a while, if you've listened to Rod, if you listen to Steve, do you believe them?
Right.
Do you come across and say, wow, they're genuine? I think they're caring. Melissa, would you go out of the way for somebody you can tell already that's like, yes? I mean, she's just like right out there because I know more of Melissa. Not that I don't know you, Rod, but tonight
That's
I just
all right. That's all right.
But when you know somebody like that, I could reach out with Steve. Same time, we've all met each other around during COVID, and he would give me an answer to anything. And I want to give kudos to Munster. I'm serious. This is no joke. This is all printed out of all the information. So anybody out there, go to Munster and check them out, and message Melissa and Rod and all of us, and we can help. But this is that 30-second elevator speech, is it, Steve? And then we're going to call it. So
next time.
It's 30 seconds for you both here, and let's take it on out.
Yeah. And I want to echo what Dave's mentioned. It's great getting to know you two, and thanks for being the great participants. Some of these questions, we had a lot of fun. And I think the biggest thing for job seekers out there that are watching, or people that are considering making the move, it's important to be prepared in your job search and stand out. Use the tools that are out there. Monster has some great ones, for example, to set yourself up for success and set yourself apart from the other job seekers. And for employers, it's crazy out there, and I think there's multiple resources, lots of job boards and career hubs, and it's finding what works for you. How do you get to your ideal candidate fast before anybody else? How do you stand out? And so I have a lot more questions on how we can do that for next time.
Perfect.
Well, this video now Steve had to make an exit video for you, Melissa. I don't know, Rod. We didn't get nothing. Rod, I didn't get anything, so don't feel bad. But
No, that's quite all right. Melissa deserves everything she can get.
Listen, she's getting Steve. Here we go. Are you right? But we'll see everybody back soon. Here's the exit interview.